Thank you so much for the invitation. Today, I am going to talk about gray literature in the digital era, discussions on the accessibilities and the digitization of STEM materials. I'm Tomoko Steen. I'm a professor of the microbiology and the director of the graduate program in biomedical science policy and advocacy at the Georgetown University School of Medicine. Today's presentation is based on my personal observations. I have worked as a university professor and as a senior research specialist at the Library of Congress. I retired from the Library of Congress on June 30th, 2022. Thus, my presentation does not represent the views of the Library of Congress, nor Georgetown University. What is gray literature? Gray literature is information produced by government agencies, academic institutions, and also the for-profit sector that is not typically made available by commercial publishers. This is a definition presented by Johns Hopkins University's Welch Medical Library, and I often follow this definition. There's several other definitions for gray literature, but this is one of my simple favorite one. Types of gray literature include reports, proceedings, dissertation and thesis, white papers, newsletters, patents, and registered trials. Today, I will only discuss STEM-focused gray literature here, and most of my experiences is STEM topics. Digital archives made valuable materials accessible to the world. I hope everyone agrees that. I'd like to share with you my unique experience. I worked at both sides of the library counter, researcher and professor. I have been a professor and a scientist, historian of science and science policy educator, but 21 years I spent at the Library of Congress as a librarian and worked also on archival materials. When the gray literature was not digitized, the difficulties I faced as a scientist was I could not access to proceedings, technical reports, and dissertations I needed when I was writing scientific papers. The difficulties I faced as a historian of science was archival materials were not digitized or had limited access, and I have to travel really long way to see materials, or even I get there, some of the materials are not accessible for several different reasons. The difficulties I faced as an educator was materials I wanted to assign my students were not accessible or expensive to copy and hard to distribute. On the other hand, digitizing gray literature was a challenge. Challenges I faced processing digital gray literature as an archivist was a long list of digitization requests. Institution like Library of Congress, the list is really, really long. And I was not sure even the materials I got passed to allow to digitize are going to be digitized before I die. And some of the materials are very expensive, of course, to digitize. And even federal agency like the Library of Congress, I knew that funding is an issue. Also, some of the materials are very, very fragile. So too fragile to process digitization. Also, personally identifiable information were in the gray literature, and PII is really a concern. And approval, getting approval, most of all, from a supervisor and higher administrator was very, very difficult. I involved in two different digitization projects. One was called War and Peace Project, and basically it was history of atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the Japanese archivists were to find archival materials both in Japan and the US, and digitize all of them and put in one archive, hard copy, become really accessible to more broader audience. And that was the purpose, and funded by Japan Society for Promotion of Science, JSPS. And it was archived at McGovern Historical Center under University of Texas Medical School, Houston campus. And also another one I worked on, and that was the main reason I took a job at the Library of Congress, is World War II Japanese and Nazi German STEM collections at the Library of Congress. And the collections were scattered throughout the library, but quite many science materials, technical reports and standards section. Also at the Japanese section and the Asian division, and also rare book division, as well as motion picture division has some of the collections. They had amazing collections on that topic. And we Americans knew what type of scientific and technical research, medical research also, were done in Germany and Japan. And as soon as war ended, we sent experts to those countries, brought back these valuable materials. However, at the Library of Congress, while have many language experts, happened to be there was nobody actually had the science and technology and medicine background with Japanese and German language skills. So I was called in to review these collections. These I stayed at the Library of Congress 21 years. These are collections, just a wonderful project, both of the projects, but there was a problem. War and Peace project, when McGovern Historical Center archived and put on the web, there was a huge number of the complaint came from veterans group, and also the survivor of atomic bomb, survivors of the atomic bomb, because issues were very much as PII and also ethical issues. So they had to bring down from the web, and they do still have a collection on a standalone computer. And also same reason, World War II Japanese and Nazi German STEM collections, there are a lot of issues of the PII and ethical issues as well. And these are one of the main issue we need to discuss further, especially for Grey literature meetings. I think it's a really central question. Are there any questions? I'm happy to take questions. Please send me email at tys8@georgetown.edu. Thank you so much for your attention.